I printed out 40 handouts and I have 39 out already. So that's wow, I'm gonna have to print up for Saturday again, so that's good. Welcome, we're glad to have you here. For those of you that don't know me, I can't believe that, but I'm Karen Burkish. I started class, I was in the class of fall of 2023. And I started my journey because I worked at Tractor Supply, was hired as the garden center representative, and thought that was going to be a fun gig until it got to be 120 in the garden center. And then I did that for 2 years and then said it's time to just devote my time to what I love most, which is the plants itself. So that's a little bit about me. I am a certified master gardener, and like I said, since 2023, found another love of mine, which is NEPSOT, which is the Native Plant Society of Texas in New Braunfels. If I would have found out how easy and lazy that NEPSOT was, I probably would have started there opposed to starting in the raised garden bed world. Which brought me to Wild Ones of South Central Texas. I was looking for a community online that I could be part of that was a national organization. And so I noticed that we did not have one down in South Central Texas. There is one in Dallas. So I am the president of the Seedling for South Central Texas. So if you're interested in doing Wild Ones, let me know on that. And then at the bottom of that, of course, is my email address, specifically for anything gardening. So feel free to email me if you have any questions. If I don't know the answer, I will tell you right now that I will find somebody who does, as we mostly do. Okay, there we go. So housekeeping, just a couple of things. I know that most of the classes aren't doing the questionnaires, but I like them because it gives me feedback on how I'm doing as an instructor, and the only thing that I can do is get better by instruction. So please, please, please don't hesitate to be rough if you need to. Turn your phones on silent because my ADHD XYZ gets real distracted real fast. So just if you would do that as a courtesy to myself and to the other people here. Jot down any questions. At the end, we'll do some questions and answers. If I don't know the answers, I'm sure there is somebody in this crowd that will help me out. So that's good. And then every time you come to any of my classes, take what you want and leave the rest. This is one of my hardest classes, Lunch and Learns, only because you all come with such a variety of amazing knowledge. And I always feel like, what am I going to tell them that they don't already know? So I redid my spring class for y'all. So we're gonna go through. I took it to a different level. I can sit here and we're going to go over the seed packets and the frost dates and all of those other things. But I'm going to cover a couple of things that hopefully you'll take with you and just kind of rethink the way you're gardening and rethink the way we garden as gardeners also. So with that being said, told you a little bit about me. First love came from my grandmother. She had 4 o'clocks in Ohio, and if anybody knows about 4 o'clocks, they pop up at 4 o'clock and then they go to sleep and then they don't come back until the next day. So it's all her fault that I like plants. And that's kind of where that all leads to. Last year, right at this time, I was in Mexico City seeing the monarch butterflies in their native habitat down in the pine woods of Mexico. So that was kind of fun. Went to Costa Rica at the beginning of December. Saw a different aspect of my indoor plant world. So that was amazing to know that these little plants that you buy at Lowe's or Home Depot are huge. They're just, and they grow off of nothing. So it's an amazing, amazing world. But so we're kind of continuing that path, and that's usually where my journeys lead me. Oh, sorry. Go back. Okay. So these are a few things that we're going to cover today. I've got about 40 minutes to do so, so we're going to kind of run through it fast. And like I said, I appreciate we'll hold your questions till the end, unless there's something immediate. We're going to talk a little bit about site and location planning. We're going to talk about journaling, water feed, mulch and planting, your zone and frost dates, containers, a little bit, and then we're also going to talk about what to plant for your pollinator garden. Texas Superstars I know are a big thing because they're easy and they seem to grow anywhere and they're hybrids, but I like to throw natives in there too, as you know, so that's kind of where my world leads. So just a little quote from an anonymous source. Spring gardening isn't about planning, it's about learning life lessons and being present, timing restraints, and of course, patience. I think that's the one thing that I've learned the most is the patience part. I want to get out there and plant, and I want to have lettuce for dinner, and it doesn't happen that way, so it's taught me a lot. So we're going to go from this. This was last week. As the weather got nice, my garden did not. So the top one is my raised bed. That's kind of what it looks like right now. I actually traded out those wood. My wood was looking kind of trashy, so I bought galvanized tanks and put them around. So it looks a little bit different, but as far as the vegetation, that's it, guys. And you'll hear Paul occasionally throw at me. That's my canoe. So I do have a canoe in my backyard. That's my pollinating garden on the other side. When I was looking at building a beautiful flower bed, they wanted $1,500 to do so, and I said no. And in a thought process with my brother, we talked about a canoe. And so I got an 18-foot canoe and put it in the middle of the backyard and built around it. So this is what it looked like in spring and summer last year. So as you can tell, this is a little crazy. We started singing, you know, Welcome to the Jungle when I had friends come over. They're like, holy cow, what is this? And then of course the pollinating garden. I do have my Esperanza was from your seed that you gave me last year before. Yeah, you had given me some Esperanza. I know, look at my Esperanza's right there.
Excellent.
So, and that goes to show you too that when you plant with seeds, you just got to have patience and a little timing, and it all works out. So it's kind of fun. And so this was August of this year. How much rain did we have? Oh, yeah, very little. That's what my garden looked like in August of last year. With no water? With no water. And I ended up with monarch butterflies everywhere. So it is possible if you plant the right things at the right times and during your garden. So again, patience to getting to know those. So last frost estimated, thank you, Phil. It was March 17th. You wouldn't know it today, would you? Past couple of days have been 80 degrees. Rodeo starts tomorrow, so kind of count on it for next weekend, because usually the second week of rodeo in San Antonio is always a cold and wet and rainy one. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that that'll come through. Hold on to that date. 9 times out of 10, it'll go either a week or 2 after also. So don't get real excited when it comes to March 17th, which is St. Patty's Day. Drinking your green beer, going tomorrow, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to plant everything that I want to plant because you may be expecting it a little bit later than that. So hold on, it's coming. We got one more. We got one more, guys. And usually it's always around Valentine's Day, and about 9 months later, we know what happened. So, well, it's been that way for the last, I've been in Texas for 30 years, and Valentine's Day always has some sort of cold around it. It's bizarre. But anyway, 9 times out of 10, I'll give you that. All right. So, how many of you guys are master gardeners now? See my predicament? I gotta teach you something new, right? So,
It's always good to rehash old things.
sometimes. Well, we will rehash some of it, but keep in mind there's plenty of info out there. I think we all need to be reminded that the internet is not always the truth. And I think that's something that we really need to take into account. You can Google how to plant a tomato and you will get at least 50 or 60 or even 200 pages of information of the proper way to do it. And every internet person will tell you that their way is the best and they're going to be the most successful and it's all going to happen just perfect. Yeah. Bill Nodine told me that with tomatoes. Yeah, I've never had a crop like Bill Nodine. So, but this is just a couple of reminders that there's so many things out there on the internet that we want to just go ahead and take bits and pieces. I think the cleanup checklist for the garden is amazing because it does allow you to give information. Maybe you forgot to do something or you weren't really, it wasn't really on your radar to do, but it reminds you. But don't take the internet as 110% of what is out there. And I think that's important. If I only needed one book, I would get the Texas, How to Garden in Texas, right? That would be my one book, my one source. But I wouldn't have all of you to go to as well to see what would be the best or what works for you. So as I told my fall gardening class, we are all scientists. That's all you are. We put it in this year and we go ahead and we try and we make it work. And if it works really good, we do what? Journal it down so that we can try to repeat it for next year. But God has all these other plans with seeds that we get, right? So it's all about experimentation. What works for me may not work for Pam. Okay? So keep that in mind. Everything is all about putting information in your head and making it happen. So remember, there's plenty of info out there, but experiment. Allow yourself to do that. Okay, spring is the most misunderstood season. It truly is. We have so many things to do in the garden, especially you saw my garden right now. It's got nothing in it. So I've got to start with the basics. And the first thing I need to do is do the soil amend, right? I need to look at it. What's happening in the garden? My soil amend is one of the first things that I do. I actually observe the soil for a week, especially when this sunshine comes out, because I want to see what microbes are going on in the undersoil. I don't want to necessarily disturb the soil because that fungus and the microbes that are in the soil from my last crop are helping for my next crop. Okay? So maybe I don't need to do anything but lift the soil just a little bit to give it some air and then put a whole couple of bags on top. Okay? So keep that in mind. You have to be an observer for the first week, 2 weeks that it starts getting warm and the soil starts drying out a little bit. Even though we haven't had much rain, you're still going to have moisture in the soil. So just kind of keep that in mind. Look at the bugs that are coming out. What kind of moths do you have? Are the bees there yet? Are the butterflies there? We've got yellow butterflies right now that you'll see occasionally, right? So all of those things you need to pay attention. What happens with butterflies? Caterpillars, right? So you may be seeing some holes in some leaves that you really didn't expect to be there. So just kind of keep that in mind. So therefore, your first thing to do is observe your soil that you have. What do I need to do to clean it up? Do I need to pull the crops? Do I need to go ahead and cut off the tops? What do I need to do on that? All right. So, because spring is so misunderstood, we need to allow that selective mess. Okay, it's very difficult for HOAs and for other neighbors to understand why you are not cutting down all of that dead stuff. Okay, we have to take a different attitude to that. If they ask you, you just tell them that you've got some sort of wonderful creatures that are living in your stuff and you want to check it out, make sure it's happening right. What stays, what goes? And that goes for flower beds. You don't have to cut anything down until after that last frost. It really does harbor good insects. It really does allow the birds to feed. So pay attention to those things. So with that being said, how many of you had Maximilian sunflowers in your yard? Yeah. Were they
Every single day I go out,
Mhm.
and there are 50 more little cuddlings, and the taproot is this long,
Yeah.
every single day.
So the Maximilians are really kind of cool because if you cut them off, they get like this, right? The Maximilians, when you cut them off in the winter, because you can't take this bigness anymore, and you cut them down and you leave them there, they actually have a hollow stem. And so creatures in the winter will harbor there. So it's kind of fun to watch, especially if you have the potential and the ability to have them in a field and they just kind of do their thing. So watch for overwintering insects. How many, can't tell you how many times that I've gone out there and I've been ready to cut something down and all of a sudden, because the monarchs were so late this year, I lifted it up and out flew 2 or 3 monarch butterflies that hadn't gotten on their way. So you have to pay attention to that because you don't want to disturb their habitat if they're still hanging around. All right, leaf litter. This is a hard one. How many of you have that neighbor that get out there and they blow their leaves everywhere but where they need to be, under the trees or on the grass, and doing what they're supposed to do? Leaf litter is important. It also is a place for harboring insects that need to be there in the wintertime. And it warms the soil. When it falls, leaves know what they're doing. They're keeping their toes warm in the wintertime. They take it off of their bodies and they put it on the ground so that their feet stay warm so that they don't have to worry about it when it gets too cold. It gives it a little bit of a buffer. Okay, we talked about cutbacks, garden beds have moved. Okay, I think we covered everything on that. Sorry guys, new presentation. I'm apologizing now. All right, spring is a series of signals also. So when you're in the springtime, we also need to pay attention to the soil temperature. Okay? Notating when you are going ahead and you have your seeds that you're planting, you want to make sure that the soil is warm enough. It's not necessarily about what the temperature is outside. It's about how warm are their feet. Because when they're building their stuff underneath the ground, the last thing to come out is the actual leaves. Okay? So make sure that the soil temperature is there. The soil moisture. Look at our daylight. So right now we're going back on the upside. We're getting back to that time that we can be out in the morning and come home from work and be out there another hour or 2. So keep those things in mind. You need to pay attention to all of these signals that are coming through the plant behavior. What's happening? If I were to go ahead and plant something right now and we have a freeze in 2 weeks, chances are it's not going to survive because those poor little leaves are just going to be coming up. So you've got to think about all of those things that are happening. And then of course, I'll go back to my bugs. I'm a big bug fan. I like watching. And so the insect activity. Pay attention to what's out there. Because right now they are so confused. I mean, they're more confused than we are 9 times out of 10 on this because they don't know what's going on. Wait a minute, should I come out of my hive? Maybe not. Well, it's 80. And then all of a sudden they get frozen out. So pay attention to insect activity that's going on out there too.
Here,
All
can I
right.
interrupt you for a second?
Yes, ma'am.
In Livonia yesterday, I had my classroom outside, and they actually saw a butterfly that had just come out and was drying.
Yeah.
And its wing was tucked under yet, it had not dried yet, and they got to see that.
Oh, how
It
wonderful.
was amazing.
Yeah. If you ever get to see that, or you pay attention enough in your yard that you end up seeing the pupas and watching it and having it grow, I mean, it's just, I can get into my story about butterflies, Carol, and it's not gonna be, I'll start crying.
It was in the grass, so I actually
You got to
scooped
move
it up
it.
and put it in the garden
Yeah.
so they could see it, observe it that way, so nobody would accidentally step on it.
Oh.
And they got to watch it moving its wing out, so it would.
And that's something that, you know, if you don't take the minute in your garden just to enjoy, there are so many different bees out there. I never realized how many bees there are, you know, and they don't want to have anything to do with you. I'll be honest. They don't want to have anything to do with you whatsoever. They want to be on their flowers doing their thing. They could give a crap about what you're doing. Just don't bug them, and then they won't get mad. All right, for those of you that like, thank you for sharing that, Carol, that's beautiful. Thank you, for those of you that like graphs, here they are. These are the easy ones, for those of you that like numbers. So, this kind of gives you an idea. We're going to go over this right now, and then we'll go into the zones and all of that. But keep in mind, anything that is under 40 degrees needs to be in your garage or covered. It's just an easy way to think about it. If you hear that it's getting anywhere near 40 degrees, do the Texas two-step and pull your stuff into the garage. And then just get ready to pull it back out. And we do that all winter long here in Texas. What I've done, just as an FYI, kind of extra knowledge. So in the wintertime, when I pull my stuff in the garage, I have a lamp that has a daytime actual seating or grow lamp in there. I turn it on so that it's on a timer and it goes on for 6 to 8 hours in the evening. I have automatic lighting in my garage. So just kind of an idea on that rather than doing, I got tired of literally pulling them in and out of the garage because it was just too much for me. So again, lazy gardener, that's what I do pretty much through the month of February. And then after that, then we kind of see where the frost dates lie. Then we go into March. Coming up at the end of March, we'll get back to what we've got right now, which is our 50s in the evening and then 70s and 80s during the day. And then we start our journey to summer. And as we know, no rain, just this is the weather. So this is all on the air temperature up here. Quick question. If it is 30 degrees outside, what do you think the temperature in your soil is?
Warmer.
It's warmer. So you're going to be looking at about 40 to 50, maybe even 60 degrees in the soil, depending on how well you mulch. Okay? So again, keeping those feet warm is important. Don't worry about the leaves outside. Okay? Now, if it's lettuce, it's a different situation, right? Because we want to eat the leaves and we want to do those things. But the important thing about when you're planting is that your soil is going to be warm enough for it to grow. It really has nothing to do with the temperature on the top, on the outside. Because when it is 0 below, or below 0, whatever you want to call it, and it's blowing on top of you, and it's cold up here, how many pairs of socks do you have on? Just to keep your body temperature where it needs to be. So this is just a little idea of our temperatures. I wish it was 85 degrees in August and July, but it doesn't always happen that way. Paul, How hot is it when tomatoes do not reproduce anymore?
Sometime after about 85 degrees.
Okay? So keep that in mind. What do you got to do with your tomatoes in the summertime? Got to put some shade over them, right? So just kind of keep those things in mind. August is not a great time for tomatoes. The leaves are amazing, but you probably won't see any flowers or fruit.
40%.
So about 40% of the time.
Shade cloth.
There we go. So again, there's your seed calendar. This is when you can plant, and this is what you're dealing with. So tomatoes, these are the climates, and this is how this all kind of goes. You want to seed in February because your soil's warming up. And as your soil, you transplant in mid-April. And then as you get to July, that's when you should be expecting some fruit of some sort, if not before. All right? So this is just another graph. I'm not a big graphy person, but it gives you some of the technical part of it. And it is truly a science as we go through and we develop our ways to go. What zone are we in, ladies and gentlemen? 9A. 9A. We were 8B, and a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, they changed this to 9B, or 9A. So we are right in here. We're right on the cusp. So you can still get away with the 8B, but it's probably to err on caution and go with the 9A. Because it does mean it's hot work. This means cold weather. I don't know if y'all know that, but your zones are by the winter months. They are not by the summer months. So it's actually about cold temperatures. It's not about hot temperatures. Okay? So on the back of your seed packets, that's where you're going to see this wonderful little map. Occasionally it's been updated. And so you need to pretend that you know what that looks like. And we'll get into that one in a second. So prepare without disturbing. So when you do your soil and you get ready to plant your plants, you're going to go ahead and figure out your planting windows, right? You're going to actually sit down at the kitchen table and figure out what your planting windows look like in comparison to the frost dates. You had said you already started your lettuce, correct? Do you have it covered or is it inside?
Covered.
Yeah. So he's already prepping because he knows there might be another frost date in line. Important if you want to harvest and not get out there and just plant for no reason. That's the hard part. Yes, ma'am?
I've got lettuce and it actually made it through the freeze.
Yeah. They like cold weather.
I got 2 different types. I got purple romaine and leaf lettuce.
Did you plant from seed or did you plant by transplanting? Good job.
Using the same seed over and over.
Good girl. That's awesome. I love hearing success stories in the wintertime because it's always a challenge to see what's going. Growth management, how big, how small, how much space do I have? What does that look like? Realize that that little tiny lettuce seed is going to grow into a lettuce plant. So you don't want to plant them side by side by side by side. We're starting, yeah, I know. So keep in mind your growth management. You can do tight gardens, but you've got to pay attention to how much space you need in between because you still want those roots to extend. And then cross-category insight, what can I plant with this? And it's not about what looks good, all right? It's what's going to be beneficial to that other plant. So if you're planting something like radishes that have a lot of nitrogen, make sure that whatever you're planting it with likes the nitrogen that the radishes are putting in the soil. Otherwise, your garden's not going to be successful. So again, going back to being a scientist, making that happen. And then your water strategy. It is a strategy in watering in Texas. It is not a schedule. You can set yourself a schedule to water or set up your timer to water at a specific time. But if it gets to be 120 or 110, guess what? You might be going out there in the evening again. Okay? So it is a strategy. You have to pay attention. You have to become a meteorologist. And doing it well in the spring will teach your roots how to grow in the summer. Right? How many of you have planted something and gone, oh, well, I watered twice a day. 10 seconds, 2 minutes. Did you flood it? Did you overwater? You know, sometimes those things, you have to pay attention. They're living beings, for goodness sakes. No, we don't want to print, sorry. No. Sorry about that. Back to the slideshow. All right. So late spring and early harvest, right? So, how many of you have an over-managing control problem? Clayton. That's funny from our grow team rep. Awesome. We do. We have a control problem because we sit there and we go, oh, it doesn't look just right. We got to pull this little leaf off, or we got to make this, let it be. So first and foremost, when you're looking, you're going to watch for the pests and diseases. When you have a yellow leaf, it may just mean that you're overwatering. It may not necessarily mean go out and get 7 and pour it all over your plants. If you have a hole, it may be just one little hole. Maybe somebody got lost and they nibbled a little bit and they took their family elsewhere. Okay, so watch first. Now I'm not saying let it go for 2 or 3 weeks and then come back to it, but give it a couple of days before it actually makes an impact. Who's showing up? We have so many different pollinators that are out there that you don't even realize that they're pollinators. One of the things that I realized in Costa Rica was there is a beautiful jade hanging plant, and the pollinator is a bat. And the way the flower is built, it actually cups up, and that's when the bat comes in the nighttime and goes into the flower. So things that are in your garden that you may not necessarily know that they are a pollinator, they're pollinators. So flies, bees, birds, hummingbirds, monarchs, and they're really overrated sometimes. Because there are so many animals out there that are doing pollinators. Anybody that can get in and shake that little stem and make that puff of yellow whatever go everywhere, that's a pollinator. So keep those things in mind. The other thing, mulching. Right now, don't mulch. We don't know what the weather's quite doing just yet. You should have mulched in the fall, right? So that we keep the moisture in the ground, keep the ground warm. But if we go out there and we mulch now, we may be keeping water in that doesn't need to be kept in. We may be overheating the soil. Give it, just be patient, I promise. It's coming. So if you do it too early to cold soil or do it too late, so the too early, you'll have cold soil and you're going to keep that cold moisture inside. It's not springtime for them if you do that. If you go ahead and you do it too late, you don't have enough moisture in the soil. And so you're going to end up not being able to get that moisture in unless you have an underground water system. So just kind of keep those things. Veggie beds, flower beds, native landscapes, harvesting, deadheading, and all that restraint. Hold back from those things. Just give it a little bit until the temperature evens out. You don't have to be a meteorologist. All you have to do is watch the news on the weather. All right. And then deadheading, that's up to you. Truly is. How much ugly can you deal with? And that's where you need to set those goals for yourself in your garden, but pay attention. So it's a mindset, and it's a hard mindset to do. How many have already cut down their garden this last week? Did you do out at Marion, at the Marion Garden? Yeah. It's hard. It's hard. No, Lord. All right. So you have a choice. Check your journal from last year. You should be writing your journal to every garden that you do. I'm really bad about it, so I have a kitchen calendar that I just jot down notes. So write your notes. If something's coming in and doing well, make note of it. Because you don't want to come back last year and go, oh, what did I do? What did I do that made that so perfect? You want to be able to have some documentation and try to recreate those things. I did do the Three Sisters last year, and it's a lot of fun to watch in a short little place, but I planted my squash too early. I got excited. I wanted to see it go right away, and the corn wasn't big enough, and it was just a whole mess. So, spacing, watering, maintenance, all those things. Choose your plants, not trends. Again, going back to the internet, somebody's going to tell you that some sort of tomato grew really, really well. I did this. I confess. I got with a internet person that was out of California. I ordered her seeds. Guess what? They weren't successful. Okay? And it's because it wasn't that her seeds were any bad. They did produce. But my weather and 75 degrees every day didn't work. Okay? So you've got to reproduce and think about where you're getting the seeds. That's why a lot of the bush seeds or the, back to the roots, whatever, those are made specifically for gardeners across the nation. But when you order from the specifics from the internet, it's a little bit different. And also choose your plants that you are going to harvest and eat. I can't stress that enough. Grow what you're going to eat or share, one or the other. The list that I have here, these are successful. These are easy peasies. If you get creative and you decide to do asparagus, guess what's going to happen? Pam, how long does it take an asparagus to come up and actually be ready to eat? About 3 to 4 years.
2.
Yeah.
2.
I thought, oh, I'll have asparagus in the summer. Didn't know. So keep those things in mind and pay attention to what you're doing. And if you put asparagus in, it's there. You lose that space in your garden. For 3 years. At least. Come together right now. Okay. So, one spring, many gardens, same principles. So whether you're planting your raised garden bed or whether you're planting your flower bed out in front of your house, it's the same principles. Okay, so pay attention to your watering, when everything is going, when do I leave things alone, all of those good things. Set a plan. These are going to go really fast. You don't have to be an artist to plan out your garden. You don't have to be a huge gardener. You can do 1 foot gardening. 1 foot gardening is very easy to do. You get yourself some wonderful yardsticks, and you can lay them down and give you your borders. Okay? And they're a lot of fun, and it looks like a hot mess when you go at the end of the season. And these are just a couple of other plants. The reason I did this right here is a way to plan your garden. Just with circles. Know what your circles are. So the middle circles, those are my tomatoes. And then I've got my lettuce and all my other small vegetables that are on the outside. You don't have to be an artist and do all this fancy pants. Okay? Don't have to have a special program to do it either. You can get kids stickers and just do whatever the stickers, and the stickers represent whatever it is if you want to get fancy. So here's, and I put this in your packet too. In South Central Texas, this is kind of how we garden. So as you can see, we've got onions here, and then the lettuce and the carrots, and that'll go until about April. Then we start with our tomatoes and the corn. I can't remember what that one is, sorry. But then as we come into the fall, we start all over again. So this is kind of a good base of what that looks like, and know your fall and your winter vegetables as we go through. Companion planting. This is a lot of fun. If you get into companion planting, you can have a full bed without even trying. So you'll have your tomatoes, and what do we plant with tomatoes? Because it goes really, really good with tomatoes? Basil, right? So then this is dill, marigolds, of course, marigolds to keep our critters away. Learned something last night. Sunflowers actually really make a great base for zucchini. Okay, your zucchini and your cucumbers will crawl up your sunflowers, and they're strong enough to hold it there. So that's kind of a cool thing. I thought that was kind of cool. What were the two things you said that crawl up them? Zucchini and cucumbers. You can probably make squash too, but I think squash would be a little bit probably on that. It would probably take over. All right, real quick, soil. We talked a little bit about this. If you've done cover crops, it's time to take away your cover crops. You do your cut and drop. If you're going to remove the crops, make sure that whatever you're removing is either okay to leave or to put into your compost pile, whatever that looks like. Vegetable crop rotation. Try not to plant the same thing in the same patch every year. So if you've planted tomatoes there, think about where you're planting tomatoes this year. It makes it a lot easier, and it rejuvenates the soil. So again, going back to being a scientist, what's it going to give you? What's it going to put? Prepare your bed for the new season. Make sure your drainage is appropriate. Make sure you're not having any water standing. When I removed my wood beds and put in the galvanized, I noticed that there was some leakage on the bottom, so I had to repair that. Had to make sure that it was sitting all the way into the soil. So just pay attention to your water drainage, because you don't want that to become a problem, because nothing's worse than getting halfway through summer and you've got a half a crop that's coming in and you have to replace something or fix something. So look at your drainage. Compost and manure, make sure you're using the right size. You guys know that. Make sure it's not hot. If you're planting directly into it, you don't want to be planting hot compost with it, because it'll burn up your seeds. You're going to bake them.
You want to explain what hot compost means? So people that don't know what it is.
Ooh. So the way that I understand it is fresh manure. So if you have your cow manure from out in the field, don't bring it directly in and put it in your soil. I did good?
How long do you have to wait?
Till it's dry.
Okay. So so if you're going to put it in your beds, then you're going to go ahead and you're going to let it sit.
Make sure it's completely dry before you put it in your bed.
Thank you, Miss Carol. All I know is I see, how many times have you seen those compost piles smoldering?
Yes.
And then you think about putting your, seeds in it, and all of a sudden you've got baked beans and not beans that are growing.
Chicken manure is
Yeah.
one of the worst things that you can put directly on your garden.
Yeah.
You have to let it sit for quite a while for nitrogen to absorb out.
That's when you mix in,
The mushroom compost out of Gonzales, they mix that with chicken manure. If you've ever watched the process, once you get it, it's already had mushrooms in it, but by the time you get it, it's still hot. And I know because I was sitting on a pile of it 2 days ago. Here it was burning. With chicken manure and, you know, if you let it sit for a month or two, put it in a month or two before you're going to plant into it, you're good.
yeah.
It'll break it down.
Yeah, you have to wait it out.
You also have to
It's
be
not
careful
something to put it right in.
with manure. Nowadays, they use so many pesticides on fields, weed killers. And cattle, and especially horses, it goes basically straight through them. And so when they're eating that grass that has all the pesticides on it, they're passing the pesticides right into the manure. If you put that on your garden, guess what? You just killed the garden.
Exactly.
So
Thank you. Yes, ma'am?
It's been many years since I took the vegetable specialist course, but at one point, they were saying, be careful of the manures, particularly horse, because they're given wormer. And I
Well,
like to have that food.
And, you know, I have different opinions on a lot of things. But one of the things that I try to be as careful as I can with what I put on my soil and in my soil. So I'm not super organic, ladies and gentlemen, I hate to tell you. I'm not a vegetarian. But we exercise caution as much as possible to what the growing materials are out there. And I do not have the time nor the patience, even though I've learned a lot, to make my own dirt to soil. So I have to take what I get. And there's some are better, but I am always very skeptical about using direct manure from different farms and gardens because I don't know, unless I know them directly. It's one of those things that you kind of got to weigh on your own and make those things happen.
Yeah, I used to use my own, I had donkeys and I had chickens and I used to mix them together. And I used to use them and I did not have a problem with them, but it was my own animals.
Yeah. And so it's a different thing. So watch what you put in your soil and remember those things that you put in the soil, even though they're going to be microbites, okay, they're still going to go in your body. And so those are things that you just need to be cautious about and pay attention to. And part of the reason that we're growing our own stuff is because we want to be able to know what's going into our body. So just remember that it starts at the very, very beginning. Real quick about soil prep, raking and tilling and loosening, and then of course remove the weeds depending on who you are. If you want to leave your dandelions, that's your thing. And then rake it again and allow it to sit. Seed packets, I gave you guys all the seed packets so that you can look at the back and see that what all of that seed packet is on there and remind yourself of what those seed packets have on the back. They tell you how many days to harvest. So what am I going to do on my kitchen calendar? I'm going to write the day that I planted my radishes, right? Clayton, am I right? We're going to write down when we put them in the dirt, soil, and then we're going to go into the calendar and we're going to count out how many days? 58. And put that date so that you know what you should be looking for in the garden at 58 days. You're out there every day watering, but you still want to make sure that at 58 days, that should be about the time for harvest. It's also telling you what kind of sun you need. Don't plant it on the side of the house that gets no sun all day long. Makes no sense, right? And then it tells you how it's supposed to be sowed. And then how many should you be putting in? 2 to 3. Well, guess what? If you put in more than that, you're going to have to select who lives and who dies. Because you don't want 3 or 4 little plants coming up, okay? So you have to select who lives, who dies if you do more than that. It also tells you your watering. It also tells you what zone you're in when you can plant this particular item. So take a look on the back of those packets when you purchase your seeds. And you know, one of the things that I didn't realize until I became a gardener, you don't need to use the whole packet. I thought if I'm buying this, I'm maximizing this. And so read the packets and don't be afraid to save the seeds. Just put them in a little Ziploc bag in a nice cool place in your house and you'll be good to go. All right, the seed calendar is on the back as well. Okay, it may look a little different, but it's there. And then, of course, containers. If you want to start early, put stuff in. You notice the carrots, right?
That's what I was looking at.
So, took y'all a little while, really? Okay. Keep in mind that if you want to start early, you can start in the garage. Do it in a container that you're willing to haul in and out, okay? But remember also you got to harden it off and make sure that once that weather starts sharpening up is when you're going to do that. And no, you cannot grow carrots like that, silly goose. This is one thing that I've started too. I started this winter, is doing a herb garden on my kitchen windowsill. And that's been really fun. It's been real fun to watch. So, different ideas, different ways to do. Yes, you can do the containers. Just remember that you got to water more, because there's not enough soil around it to keep it moist. Okay? So if you do the gardening in the containers, which we'll have another class on that somewhere along the line, just kind of keep that in mind, okay? Companion gardening, isn't that fun? Okay. Oops. Go back. All right. Talked about mulching, just like Goldilocks. Too hot, too cold, or just right. You gotta make sure that those things happen when you're mulching. Cool? Are we good so far? Am I going too fast, too slow? Good reminders? Yes.
When is just right?
You got this one?
Like, is there, because, I mean, I have no idea.
Just right. So right now, if you go out there, if we weren't going to be expecting another frost, you could probably go out there now and do a light mulch just to cover it so you don't have to water as often. My suggestion is wait till it starts getting on the hotter side.
Okay.
And then the reason you're using mulch is either to keep the water in or to keep it warm. So right now we're good. You know, the ground is just warming up. It's getting to a certain point. But when you get into the summer months, you want to make it so you don't have to water as often.
Okay.
And then with the mulching also, remember please, whether you do it in your yard or you do it in your raised beds, do not use the stuff that's got dye on it. It goes into the water system. Use hardwood or some of the natives. That's my own personal thing, but please don't use that. Do not use the dye in your garden. Oh, good night. Pollinator gardens, natives to superstars. I prefer natives because they can come free and they last. They're amazing. In the middle of the summer, you'll look out over a field and you will see the most beautiful zinnias that you've ever seen, and they are just happy as a lark without any water. I went over and, I'm hoping mine will come up. I went over and harvested some over at Miss Pio's house, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do. But the superstars are amazing also. Esperanza, Pride of Barbados. There are others that are out there that are the Texas Superstars. And they are amazing because they are bred specifically to deal with our summers. So feel free to do that because they're still pollinators. They'll still bring the birds and the bumblebees and all of that stuff. I prefer the natives because I'm trying to have my own blackline prairie in my hill strip in front of my house. And so the idea of bringing back plants that are here anyway and tolerate us all the way through. But those are just a couple of websites. If you go to the NIPSOT website, you can actually put in what you're looking for a specific area, and it will tell you what your choices are. Lady Bird Johnson's has the same type of a plant base, a database in their system. So it's kind of a cool way to find out if I have a shady area and I'm still wanting to deal with 110 degrees, this is what I need to do, or this is where I need to go. So, but these are your two choices. You've got your Texas Superstars and you've got your NIPSOT. And one thing I recommend if you are looking to put stuff into your yard, go to Lady Bird Johnson's at least once a quarter. If you go out to Lady Bird Johnson's once a quarter, you're going to go ahead and you're going to see what each of those plants are going to be doing. They do not pull them up. Okay, they let them do whatever they're going to do in that season. So if you go in the winter, you're going to see what the grasses are doing. You go in the spring, you're going to see what the flowers are doing. And you go into the fall and into the summer, you're going to see what all those plants are doing. So whatever you want in your yard at a specific time, that way you can plant where you're going to have flowers from end of winter all the way into Christmas. So just kind of keep that in mind. Those are all things that you can do with natives. That's kind of cool. So real quick, we've got a wonderful, wonderful acronym, SPROUT. Okay, for us gardeners. So S is for soil. And then we plant our seeds. And then we remember patience. We offer water and fertilizer under the sun. And then we take a harvest. Dun, 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 dun. All right. So we talked a lot, and I know it was kind of fast and furious, and I appreciate you guys so much. We talked about journaling. I can't tell you how important that has become in my life, to being able to write down everything that's going on with that. Site location planning. Make sure that you plant where you're going to actually have a harvest, and that you can get away with things. Water and feed. Feeding is something that we did not cover a whole lot, but keep in mind that if you put the right soil down at the beginning, you will not really have to worry about the fertilizing part until the next season, depending on what you planted. Mulching we talked about, planting, we talked about the zones and the cross-states, we talked a little bit about container planting, and you guys were really slow to catch that carrot thing, but that's okay. And then of course native plants in Texas Superstars. So, any questions? You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am.
Right before this was I pulled some late tomatoes, and so the tomatoes were okay, but when I pulled the plant up, it had the root on nematode.
You pulled it up, right?
I pulled it up.
Starting.
Yeah, love it. How do you kill the nematodes in the soil?
Help me out, gardeners.
Sterilize the soil. And sterilize the soil in the soil. And black. You can put your black, like water, plastic, and just let it
Seal it around. You put the plastic down. I prefer clear black one. Saturate your ground. Seal that plastic down tight. With soil over the edge.
Okay.
And leave it there for
A lot.
Anywhere.
several weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 or 8 months. More vegetables.
has to be done in the summer.
This summer, it's one way.
So no spring tomatoes.
You can put good communication in, spray those. There's certain types of marigolds that are resistant to nematodes. These are the root knotted. We planted Elvin rye for the winter to try to slow them down because it knocks up the nematodes. The roots of the Elvin rye.
What kind of rye?
Elvin rye, any rye, I don't know, we just use Elvin rye.
But it will grow in the summer, right?
No, it's not crop, it's a winter cover crop.
Yeah.
But it was,
Did you have a hard time turning the rye over? I finally gave up and had to hire somebody.
talk to Tim, and keep dealing with it. Now, if it's wet, I can pull the rye up. And if you keep it weedy with your clothes, it keeps it weedy. But if the ground's real wet, and I'm not real strong, I can pull it up.
Thank you, because I haven't had that. Yeah, I haven't had that issue yet because my beds are still real young. So, I don't know. But, like I said, if I don't know the answer, we've got an encyclopedia of answers and everybody will do what they need to do. Any other questions? Oh, I forgot to tell you. I gave you a watering tool. So this right here, you drink your water or your whatever, and then you just put it on the top, and you can water your houseplants. So it does not work with the itty bitty water bottle. So the itty bitty water, you gotta go upsize. So, but try your water bottles at home. It's been really fun to use it. My water plants in my house. So anyway, so